We'll play the way we want to, with big Ange Postecoglou.
I'll promise you I'll do a lot to get him at my club instead of fucking Ten Hag, but...
What do you mean by that?
Ain't bringing down a parcel, still calling shots like I'm giving out samples. Earning big though, these shoes on my feet are old school Italians like Totti and Del Piero.
Yo, what's good guys, this is your boy Shrimp. Welcome back to Prem Bias. We're doing a new format today, but before we get in the video, Spotify, follow the Prem Spotify, drop a 5-star review. There's a Q&A now, so you can comment. You can basically comment like it's YouTube there. Speaking of YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, say more, and follow the pod on all socials. Got a couple TikToks, IG Reels, loading. Yeah, let's get into the video.
Game.
Alright, so like I said, doing a new format. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. We're going to be focusing just on one game, the North London derby, where Arsenal won 3-2. Now on paper, it looks close because it was 3-2, but Arsenal were 3-0 at half time. So that was really, Spurs didn't really do much, and to be honest, it was quite disappointing seeing Spurs play like that. So Spurs started the game as usual, the same Postecoglou high line, which we're going to speak on by the way, because a lot of people had their say. It's only right that I have my say. And as usual, they try and be kind of aggressive. The aim is just to dominate the ball, win the ball high up, and create chances and score. And it sounds good, but it just didn't happen. They dominated the ball. They done the first part. They dominated the ball. They dominated possession in the first half. They had like 72% possession, and it seemed Arsenal were kind of sitting back and under pressure. But if you actually watch the game, you'll see that Spurs didn't really create a lot. They didn't really like test Raya too much. They didn't create that many clear-cut chances where Raya had to make a great save. And the longer and longer the first half unfolded, you could see that it was actually Arsenal's plan to let Spurs have the ball and dominate the game how they normally do. Because you could see Arteta, he'd done his homework. He's seen that Postecoglou, he likes to push his fullbacks high. He also likes to invert them as well to kind of flood the middle and control games no matter what. It doesn't matter who's playing. They could have a fucking academy player, they could have their starters, it doesn't matter. They'll play the same way, they'll play the way they want to.
We'll play the way we want to, with big Ange Postecoglou.
But Arteta was smart because he knows that the problem with this Spurs team, which we're going to get into, is that they don't really have a lot of like creators. They don't really have a lot of players that can, you know, make stuff happen out of nowhere. Spurs only really have Maddison, and Arteta knew, okay, if I bring in Partey, if I bring in Rice and just put them, make them kind of just deal with him the whole game, then Spurs aren't going to be able to create chances. So all this possession isn't going to mean anything if we just put Rice and Partey and make sure they stay with Maddison. And then, because they have that high line and their fullbacks are high, we can just hit them on the counter. And so it was actually a deliberate thing from Arsenal. It looks like it wasn't, because, you know, from the way Spurs are playing, it looks like Spurs dominating and Arsenal struggling, but really it was all part of the plan. And it just forced Spurs to just go side to side. They weren't doing anything. All they were doing was just passing the ball side to side, waiting for an opening. The opening never came because Arsenal, you've seen, they're the best team in the league defensively. Maddison wasn't involved because you had Rice and Partey marking him. There was no one there that could really, you know, make anything happen. Trossard and Saka were getting back well and marking the fullbacks quite well. And all that meant that Spurs couldn't do anything. All they were doing was going side to side, looking like Ariana Grande. Side to side. All that would happen was either you'd get a terrible shot from Maddison or someone, just one random player outside the box, and then they lose the ball, or you get a bad pass and a counter attack from Bukayo Saka or Trossard or whoever. But either way, it wouldn't lead to anything. All it would lead to was just Tottenham losing possession. To credit Rice and Partey as well for dealing with a player like Maddison, because we've seen the quality of Maddison. If you don't give him much impact, it also meant that Son couldn't really get involved, because Son he's getting kind of old. He doesn't really have that ability to create anymore. He's always been a kind of a gunman scorer. You see, when Harry Kane was there, it was mostly him creating and Son getting on the end of it and scoring. And because Son's playing striker now, he's not playing left wing anymore. If you don't give him any service, you can't really do anything, and he's your best player. If you take him out the game, then you can't really expect to win. And in fact, even though Spurs had 72% possession, that's a lot. That's way more than a normal Premier League match. They had no shots on target. They hit the post and they had a goal disallowed, but they didn't really have any shots on target. So even though they had all that possession, they didn't really create a lot with it. After 15 minutes, fairly early on again, Arsenal, they got their opportunity after pressing Spurs, forcing Vicario. We're going to speak on that guy as well. He spotted his weakness. Yeah, they forced Vicario to play the pass into Ben Davies, and that's the thing about these top teams like Arsenal and Man City is they know how to press. Obviously, you can see by the shirt, I'm a Man United fan. I watch my team, pretend like we're pressing every single week, and all we do is just run around. There's no clear idea. The thing with pressing is, if you don't have a plan, all it ends up being is just you running around. You've got to force someone to play a pass that they don't want to play, and that's what Arsenal and Man City do so well, is that they force you to play a pass into someone that's not good, like Ben Davies. But Romero, he came to the rescue and he blocked the shot. I think it was from Declan Rice, and they went for a corner, but they defended the corner that came so bad, and it happened. Spoiler alert, it happened a lot of times, and it's happened so many times this season for Tottenham. They cannot defend corners. I don't know what Postecoglou is teaching them, but whatever it is, it's not working. Because they just allowed all the Arsenal players, every single one of the Arsenal players just, they all went back post. All the Spurs players were in their zone, in the goalkeeper area, and all the Arsenal players end up just going in front of the Spurs players and actually competing for their headers, and the Spurs players are just standing there like statues. They're not really putting up a fight, not really trying to win the ball, and that forces Højbjerg to concede the goal, because one of the players, I think it was either Tomiyasu or Saliba, is one of them players that was running from the back post to the front post and forced Højbjerg to have to head it into his own goal. And we'll speak more about that defending later, because we have to look at Postecoglou. But anyway, and Arsenal go 1-0 up, and this is a huge problem now for Postecoglou. I'm someone that I rate Postecoglou very highly. I've cut him a lot of slack. They lost 4-0 to Newcastle. A huge fan of the way he plays. I was watching the way his Celtic team played in the Champions League. They lost, but I remember one game they played against Roma, they done really well. And I would happily take him over fucking Baldy, man. I'll promise you I'd do a lot to get him at my club instead of fucking Ten Hag. But
what do you mean by that?
This set piece issue, it's unacceptable. It has to stop now, because to concede from not just one, they conceded another one later, but they conceded from 2 corners in one game. Especially because it's not like a one-off. If it was just like a blip and you'd been good at set pieces the rest of the season, I could understand it, but you've been terrible. And you would think that the manager has to do something, especially because it's happened in multiple games now, all season long. The players are changing because of injuries and various other things. If everything's changing except the manager, you have to look at the manager, because he's the one thing that's constant in all of this. And I wonder how long is it going to take for Postecoglou to fix this set piece issue, because what people have kind of forgotten about, because Arsenal won, is Spurs had 15 days between the last game where they lost 4-0 to Newcastle and this game. So they had 15 days to just focus on this Arsenal North London derby, the biggest game of the season by far for you guys. You had 15 days to focus on this game, whereas Arsenal had to play Wolves, had to play Chelsea, had to play a couple games. They didn't really have anywhere near as much time. So you have 15 days and you're focusing purely on Arsenal. All you have to do is watch one game of Arsenal to realise they're quite good at set pieces. It doesn't take a fucking genius to figure that out. They had the most set piece goals in the league by quite a bit, obviously excluding penalties. So you should have been, on the training field, working on how to deal with these set pieces, and watching what Arsenal do at set pieces, because they've done this before, where they put players on the back post and just, got them all to flood the box. And that Arsenal are good at set pieces. Surely you could have figured out a way to stop them, or at least try and stop them. Maybe he did, to be fair, because I'm not on the training pitch. I'm not there at the Spurs training ground. I can't see what they're doing, but it doesn't look like it. If you can see 2 goals, it's not like a fluke. Maybe if they conceded 1, you might say, oh, Arsenal just got lucky with a set piece. You can see 2 corners the way they did, especially because both the corners are the same as well. We'll see later on, both the corners are the exact same. It's just not acceptable. You're going to lose games like this. I'll say you're going to get found out. You've kind of already been found out, because it's been happening multiple times this season. You're just going to keep losing games, because you're not going to be able to outscore teams every single game unless you've got flipping a Messi or Ronaldo up front. There are very few teams that have ever done anything and actually achieved anything by simply outscoring teams. The only one is Liverpool, and even then they still couldn't win the league. They needed Van Dijk to come in and Alisson to come in to actually win anything. And you definitely can't do it with shit players like Werner and players that don't really get GA like Kulusevski up front. But anyway, Arsenal go 1-0 up, and to be fair to Spurs, they do fight back. They don't just capitulate and go back in their shell. That's the one thing you do have to credit with Postecoglou, is the team is not going to fight back. They're never going to give up. It's impossible. You've not seen that all season. You will never see that under Postecoglou. If they give up, then something's gone dramatically wrong. But, assuming that he gets his players, you will never see that at Tottenham. That's the one thing any Spurs fans watching this, you should be, relieved, because, I promise you, watching Man United week in, week out, the amount of players that I see that don't want to be there is ridiculous. But anyway, and then they do actually have a couple chances to actually start to, knock on the door, and it gets a bit uncomfortable for Arsenal. They hit the post. Romero, that guy, he could have had a hat-trick, by the way. He was more dangerous than flipping Son, Werner and Kulusevski all combined. I don't know why. He just seemed to always end up in inside the box, even though he's a flipping centre back. But he's unlucky. He hit the post. Ironically enough, it was from a set piece, which would have been quite funny to see Arsenal. I've just spoken so much about Arsenal and how good they are at set pieces. It would have been quite funny if they conceded one, but he's unlucky. They hit the post, and they also had a disallowed goal from VAR for offside, and it was kind of harsh, because the only reason it's offside is because it takes some weird deflection. You can't really it's barely offside, but offside is offside, regardless of what people think about VAR. That's the one thing that is guaranteed, is you just have to look at the lines. You can see it's offside. You just got to charge the game. But then here we get a little bit of controversy. Or I'm tired, allow me. Because Kulusevski goes down inside the box. We'll come back to this, but the referee sees it. He doesn't give a penalty. The referee, by the way, who is it? Mike Oliver. He had a shock today. We'll speak about him later, but just know, you're lucky that you didn't see the video last week, because, boy, the amount of refereeing howlers that have been for the past week or two is dreadful. The refereeing in this country is horrible. And bear in mind, the worst part about it is most of these errors are from the quote-unquote top referees in this country. Some of the referees that are making these errors will be at the Euros 100%. They've been at World Cups, they've been at Euros, they've been at Champions Leagues, and they're the ones that are shit. So then you start to worry about the other ones. But anyways, we're not going to make it about referees. It's about Arsenal Tottenham. So the referee doesn't get the penalty, and then Arsenal, credit them, they played to the whistle. Tottenham don't, and Arsenal they quickly counter-attack as through Kai Havertz, who we're gonna speak about a lot because he had a fantastic game, probably man of the match. He played a fantastic ball over the top, Kevin De Bruyne-esque pass for Saka to run into in space. It landed straight to him, but the reason why Saka's in space is because fucking Ben Davies, this guy. How is this guy even still at Spurs, to be honest? I don't know. There's a reason why he's on the bench and the doggy starts every single game. And the only reason he's here is because the doggy's injured, unfortunately. But Ben Davies, he's horror. He doesn't even take one look to see where Saka is, you know. That's schoolboy stuff. Like, you are a left back and there's a right winger. You know where he is. Look where he is. He doesn't even take one look. He has no idea where Saka is. Genuinely, he couldn't tell you. If you ask him at that moment, where's Saka? He said, I don't know. Which, you can't defend like that in the Premier League. If you don't know where Saka is, how are you meant to stop him? You have to stay. He should have ran close to him and tried to, you know, stop him from cutting in and scoring. But instead, he just, you know, ran into kind of centre back area. Didn't really press him. And Saka had all the time and the space to just run at goal, cut in, score. Great goal, perfect finish, and just chop Davis as bottom corner. You can't really do anything about that. And it was a great goal from Bukayo Saka. He had a great game as usual with him, and he just tore Ben Davis apart. That guy had no chance. And that one, people are going to talk about, it's the high line. It's not the high line because he kept up with him fairly well. Like, even when Saka was about to shoot, Ben Davies was right there. It's nothing to do with the high line, it's just a shit player. Like, people like to just violate Postecoglou's high line just for the sake of it because it looks ugly. Like, when it doesn't come off. Like, that goal from a Spurs point of view looked way worse than it actually is. That can be fixed if you have a different player blank. If the doggy's there, that goal doesn't happen. Yeah, but as I said, we go back to the penalty. It is a clear penalty. I'm a neutral. I'm not biased. There's no, you know, nobody can say, you support this team, you support that team. I don't care about either of these teams. I don't like either of these teams. But I think it's a penalty. It is soft, like it's like a few years ago, 10 years ago, that you wouldn't even look at that. But in today's game, you know, Trossard, he does run into Kulusevski. That's just the bottom line of it, is that he runs into Kulusevski's foot as he's about to get the ball, and it trips him up. Even though he doesn't mean to, intention doesn't matter. He still trips him up and still stops him from, you know, receiving the pass and potentially scoring, or at least shooting. And it's, you know, a foul at the edge of the box on a guy that's about to play the ball. It's not like Kulusevski was miles away from the ball and he was never going to get it. Porro literally played a 1-2 to him. And Arsenal did get very, very lucky today. And that's the reason why I said, you know, the referee and the VAR had a poor game again. Because, you know, if that is a huge decision, because if that's given, then the other goal is disallowed, and instead of it being 2-0, it could potentially be 1-1, because they get a penalty. You saw Son scored a penalty later on. Son's very good at penalties, so, you know, it's basically a 2-goal swing. Instead of being 1-1, they've now ended up 2-0 down because of VAR. But what I will say, the one thing I will say that I'll cut VAR a little bit of slack is the way Kulusevski falls is very weird. Like, he stays on. I think he's trying to stay on his feet, which ordinarily I would credit him for, but then he goes down. It's kind of like he's caught in two minds. Do I stay on my feet? Do I go down? So it just ends up looking like he's diving, and it makes it look like the contact wasn't that bad. In fact, the VAR came out and said, we didn't give the penalty because it was minimal contact, but it's still like contact in the box. It still knocked him down. If his like foot was planted, I can understand that, but his foot was in the air and he was running, and, you know, ran into his foot. I think it's a pen, but it's also like a 50-50 decision. Sometimes that's given, sometimes it's not. And based on what happened later in the game, Spurs can't really be too upset by this decision, but let's make it clear that, Arsenal did get slightly lucky that the game might have been very, very different if they concede that penalty and potentially is 1-1 instead of 2-0. But it doesn't matter now, it's too late. And then Spurs, they concede another corner. We spoke earlier about how bad defending on the corner was. You think they would have learned the lesson, but no. And this is how you know it's definitely a coaching thing, because if that first one was a blip, then this second one doesn't happen. And they go 3-0 down after only 38 minutes. 3-0 down in the first half. Before the end of the first half is kind of bad, especially in the North London derby. I don't think anyone thought it would be like that. I predicted Arsenal to win, but I thought it would be like 3-0 overall. Like, I thought it would be 1-0 and then maybe like 2-0, 3-0, like right at the end of the game. Like, Arsenal would be 1-0 up for ages, and then I thought, Spurs might try and commit too many men forward and Arsenal would just hit on the counter-attack, and I thought it would be a lot closer than it actually was. I did not think it would be 3-0 in the first half. Yeah, but the corner is exactly the same as the first one. That's the thing that's so jarring for a Tottenham fan is all the Arsenal players, again, they just get the run on the Spurs players, and it's an easy header this time for Kai Havertz. That guy, he owns London right now. He cooked Chelsea, cooked Tottenham. Guy, London is his city now, it's his home. As I said, definitely man of the match. His hold-up plays, threat set pieces, makes him a real pain in the arse. And that's the thing that, Arsenal last season, they didn't really have that. And, Gabriel Jesus is probably better than him technically. He's a great player, but he doesn't have that at set pieces. Gabriel Jesus is a lot shorter. I don't remember seeing Gabriel Jesus score too many headers. He doesn't have that hold-up play either. He likes it, ball to feet, where he can turn and do something. But when you have Havertz, you have that extra, dimension kind of. We speak about Arsenal being so good at set pieces. Part of the reason is, put simply, they have a lot of tall players. Like, you've got Havertz, Partey, Saliba, Gabriel, White, and Tomiyasu, all above 6 foot. That's like half the team, plus Declan Rice, who sometimes takes corners as well. So that could potentially be 6 and maybe even 7 if there's a player I'm forgetting. But when you have so many tall players, it is understandable that Spurs are going to struggle defensively. I'm not getting onto them for struggling or even for conceding, because it can happen. Because the Spurs team is quite short. There's not really a lot Postecoglou could have done. At the end of the day, most of this team isn't really his players. The amount of players he signed in that team is like, 3, 4. It's not a lot. So he kind of has had to make do with what he's given. And when you have a team full of short players against a team full of tall players, it's only ever really going to be one outcome. But I'm annoyed because they could have at least tried. They could have at least tried to jump and win the ball. Otherwise, what's the point of this, zonal marking if you're not going to defend your zone? And most importantly, the worst part of all of this is Spurs, they clearly need a player to protect Vicario. Their goalkeeper, he's just not strong enough. He's getting bullied by everyone. Today it was Ben White. Next week it'll probably be someone else, where teams will just put a player on him and he'll, lose concentration, because Ben White today, he was just being a pain in the arse for him. Every time they had a corner, he would just go and, walk around him, wind him up, take off his gloves, just being annoying. And in both the corners, you see that White nudges him before the corner and makes him lose concentration and slows him down from coming out and getting the ball, because you've got a player like Ben White in there. He nudges him and then leaves. He's smart about it, because if he's very subtle with the way he does it. You can, you and I can clearly see it, but it's not enough for a penalty. It's not enough to be a block. it's just a little nudge, but that nudge is enough clearly for this guy to lose concentration. And that's part of the reason why Spurs concede, because some of the corners are like very, very close to his area. In fact, both of them today, they were both really, really close to the goal, where certainly for the second one, you would have expected him to come out and claim it, but he didn't do that. And yeah, Spurs, Postecoglou, if you're watching this and you're not, I'm not trying to do your job for you. I'm not claiming to be a smart guy. I'm just stating the obvious, that the guy needs someone to protect him, or it's just going to be like this all the time. You're going to concede corners every single game. Yeah, so anyway, we're at half time. Arsenal, they're 3-0 up. And after that, it was kind of cruise control. You know, Spurs, credit them, they still fought hard. They still tried to make it a game. They even got a goal back, but that was, you know, more of a mistake. It was 100% a mistake from David Raya, who passed the ball straight to Romero. I feel like I've said this guy's name 10 times, who made a crazy run from the halfway line into the Tottenham half, intercepts the pass, terrible pass from David Raya, doesn't go near any of the Arsenal players, straight to Romero, and he scores to make it 3-1. And you know, this was kind of around like the 60th, 70th minute. Yeah, I think like 60th minute still, you know, that you saw the Spurs fans were happy, the Spurs players were kind of rushing to try to get the game back, and you felt, oh, maybe, you know, just maybe Spurs can do something here, because that's quite early to concede a first goal, especially out of nothing as well. It didn't look like they were going to concede Arsenal. You just felt, you assumed that Arsenal were just going to see this game out comfortably and, you know, focus on the next couple of games. It sounds mad, but, you know, 3-0 up is, you don't expect teams to really put up a fight after being 3-0 down at half time. And that shows, you know, the high line, it does have some benefits. If there was no high line, you wouldn't have got that goal, because Romero wouldn't have been so high up. He wouldn't have been able to run into the Arsenal half and win the ball like that. And so it's not all bad for Spurs, you know. Maybe in another team, or sorry, maybe with different players, you know, maybe next season if they sign some better players, you're going to start to see, you know, improvements in the high line, because it's not the system. I promise you it's not the system, it's the players, you know, because it's not that different to what Pep does. Yeah, so then Postecoglou makes a couple changes, tries to, you know, get something out of the game. He brings Richarlison on, he brings Sarr on, he brings Basuma on, and they looked a lot better. Richarlison particularly, I thought he'd done really well. I don't know why he wasn't playing. I assume he was injured, but because he'd been on a crazy bit of form, and I think he was injured. That's probably why. Because, but when he came on, he was one of the few players that really understood, like, it's a derby. You've got to fight if you want to win. It's not like any other game. But it was too late, really. They came on after 60 minutes, 3-0 down. There's only so much they can do. Maybe if they'd started, they should have started, to be honest, because Werner was horrible. He got hooked after like half an hour. He was terrible. They probably should have started Richarlison. Based on how he's come on and what he did when he came on, he probably should have started. They should have put Son on the left, and maybe they could have done something. Sarr should have definitely started as well, because Bentancur and Højbjerg together, they weren't good. I understand Bentancur was coming from injury, but Højbjerg, this guy is washed. How is it in Big 24 you're starting Pierre-Emile Højbjerg? Fucking joke. And people will criticise Postecoglou saying, oh, he should be making top 4. The fact that he's even 5th with some of these players is kind of mad. But anyway, you know, we get to the end, near the end of the game, Arsenal fairly comfortable, and then Declan Rice concedes a penalty. It's a very weird penalty. He literally fucking boots Ben Davies in the fucking arse. Very weird. And then Son makes it 3-2. Credit to Son. You know, I would say it's a pressure penalty, but they didn't really do anything after that. And then 87th minute, still got injury time left to go. The Arsenal fans that I saw started to get a bit nervous. That's the vibe that Twitter was on anyway. They felt, we've seen the same story before of Arsenal bottling it. They've done it last season against Liverpool. It's in their DNA. But as a neutral, them last 5-10 minutes where Arsenal kind of just sat back and allowed Spurs to, and tried to just see the game out, and Spurs tried to kind of go all out and try to win, even when they would, really committing players forward. Arsenal had all their players back defending. They still didn't look like scoring, which I think tells you the whole story with some of these Spurs players. Even with flipping, who did they have? They had Richarlison, Son, Johnson, Kulusevski. They had hell of players on the pitch to kind of attack and do something, and they couldn't. I think they even put Romero at striker. They committed so many bodies forward, and they still couldn't score. I think that tells you all you need to know, because it gets to a point where you've put so many players forward and that you still can't score. It has to be the players. It can't be due to numbers, because they've got those numbers forward. And all of these forwards, really, they all were poor. The only one that even did anything, Richarlison tried, but he still couldn't really do anything. But at least he tried. Werner and Johnson, them two are horror. I don't know why you signed them two anyway. Well, actually, Werner's on loan. He's gonna go. You send him back to flipping Leipzig anyway. He's trash. Johnson, I don't know why you paid all that big money for him, because I don't think he's that good. He's just not creative. He's the same as Son for me. He's just like a B-Tech version of Son, where he'll run in behind and score, but that's about it. You've kind of got three of the same player there. Werner, Johnson, Son, they're all fast, or at least they were fast anyway, and they all just run in behind and score, but none of them create for each other. None of them are going to get any assists. None of them are going to put any crosses in the box, and it puts so much pressure on Maddison. And you saw today, Arteta, all he had to do was just put Partey on Maddison, and that's it. The whole Spurs attack is broken apart. Postecoglou is going to have to, find some players in the summer and just invest and get rid of a lot of the deadwood as well. It's so clear that Tottenham, they need to strengthen in the summer. We shouldn't be too surprised though. Again, as I said, it's Postecoglou, it's his first season, and Spurs are not like Chelsea or Man United where they can just spend loads and loads of money straight away. Daniel Levy's not that guy. We've seen him be strict with signing players. We've seen him be strict with leaving players. He had Harry Kane flipping in cops, bro. He would not let that guy go. Man City were interested. Daniel Levy said no, he's not going anywhere unless you're paying what I want. Honestly, if you're not paying me more money, he's not going anywhere. Yeah, players like Werner, Davies, Højbjerg, they're just not good enough. To play this high line. Just in general, they're just not good players at all. And most of the bench, to be honest, because the drop off between the starting 11 and the bench for Tottenham is crazy. It's one of the biggest drop offs I've seen in the league. I can't really think of a team with more of a drop off. And there also needs to be some more competition for players like Kulusevski and Basuma, because I think with them guys, their careers have just stagnated, and they've not really kicked on from when they first joined. When Kulusevski first joined, I thought he was really good. A lot of people kind of putting their stocks in him, saying, oh, he's good. I think he was quite young at the time, but a lot of people thinking, that Kane, Son, Kulusevski front three is crazy. He's going to do really, really well. And he started well. I think he had a game against Man City where he scored and assisted in very early on in the game. But since, I don't know whether it's injuries or whatever, he hasn't been the same. He's just not a threat. He dribbles well, but he doesn't have any end product. Basuma, for me, that guy, since he went on kick game after Christmas, he's been horror. I don't know what's happened to him. He's clearly just got too comfortable. He doesn't seem like I don't say he doesn't want to be there, but like he doesn't have that urgency that he had at the start of the season. Since Christmas, them two have been horrible. So they need new players in the squad that can actually challenge, that are actually good. Because the reason why Kulusevski he starts near enough every game is because whoever his backup is just not good enough. I don't even know who their backups are, but because they just don't play, and they're clearly just not good enough. So backups need to come in. Midfielders as well, they definitely need one, because Højbjerg, he's washed, and that means Basuma plays near enough every game just because Højbjerg is just not good enough. Ben's of course coming back from injury, to be fair, so hopefully next season he can do something. And you got Papsal, who's still very, very young and very inexperienced. So competition is needed for Spurs. Get them players firing, but from an Arsenal point of view, this was a really, really important game. Not the easiest. This was probably the one where, if you looked at their fixture list like 10 games ago, this was the one where you thought, okay, they're gonna lose this one. Away, North London derby. Having played Chelsea earlier midweek, you saw Tottenham had so much time to rest. You thought that, this might be the game where they slip up and the title kind of disappears. And here was the complete opposite. They smoked Chelsea, they smoked Tottenham. Even when they were doing effectively a plan B where they were just sitting back and defending, they just stole the game out. They done their job. They were clinical today. You have to give them huge credit for that as well, because I've not been critical, but like that's the one thing that I've always said about this Arsenal team is, are you actually clinical? Against Bayern you weren't clinical, against Aston Villa you weren't clinical, against West Ham early in the season you weren't clinical, and so on and so on and so on, where there are so many times where this Arsenal team is dominating the game. They might even go 1-0 up quite early on. Against Chelsea you went 1-0 up quite early on, but you didn't score after that, and you only went into the second half 1-0 up, and Chelsea actually had chances where they could have made it difficult for you. So there has always been that question mark from me as to whether this Arsenal team can actually be clinical, and today they actually did it. So I have to apologise, I have to give them huge credit. Even when they were kind of sitting back and defending, because they had nowhere near as much possession as they normally do, it shows you even more. You have to credit them even more as well because of that. They were playing a different way to how they normally do. You have to look at Arteta and say, okay, this guy's actually tactically flexible. We criticised him last season because Arsenal just played the same way every single game, and their players kind of ran out of steam, and teams kind of figured them out. This year it's not like that. They've shown that they can dominate games, and they can, sit back and hit on the counter attack. Because the reason why I'm so critical of Arsenal and saying, oh, you need to be clinical, you need to do this and that, for two reasons. One, the obvious one is you've got flipping Man City, and their, the oil money is crazy. Their team is it's a super team. Like, you have to be perfect to play them, and the pressure's on. If you slip up, then it's going to cost you. And the second reason was Liverpool, because we've seen them pretty much give up on the title. They've thrown it all away. They've bottled it because they wasted chances against Man United, Crystal Palace and Everton. All them games, they had so many chances to score. They should have won all them games very, very comfortably. Instead, they scored 2 goals out of them 3 games. They didn't score against Crystal Palace. They couldn't score against Everton. And they barely managed to get a point at Man United, where the only reason they even drew the game is because of a Wan-Bissaka penalty. And they got punished. They didn't take their chances, and then You saw the pressure start to build onto them, where in that Crystal Palace game they were just missing chance after chance, and that's not like Liverpool. Usually you would expect Liverpool to be clinical, and it got to the point where they started overthinking in front of goal, and they've pretty much thrown their chances off the league because they're not clinical. So this is why I'm saying to Arsenal, you might be clinical, otherwise you're going to end up like this. But today you were, so you're still in the race, still top of the league. Another thing we also have to mention is, there are people forgotten because the game was so easy. Arsenal were away from home, and it's a derby game. The pressure was on to win this game. No one was expecting you guys to win. This is definitely the hardest game on the fixture list. So for them to win so comfortably deserves huge credit. It was pretty much the perfect game from Arteta and Arsenal, bar one or two mistakes. But in fact, that's probably, well, I don't want to say it's a good thing. It's never a good thing to concede a goal, but if anything, that should give you more confidence that even when the players' heads started to drop, and it started to get a bit nervous and you made some dumb mistakes, you still managed to see the game out. Because if you can do it against Spurs in their own backyard, you should be able to do it against Bournemouth, against Man United, against Everton too, because Spurs have been way better than all three of these teams. In terms of players, Arsenal that done well, Thomas Partey, the return of Partey has made a huge difference in this midfield. Jorginho, he done his job, he done well, credit him, but you could see his legs have started to go. He can't play 90 minutes every single game all season long. He already isn't the quickest, so you can see when his fitness is going, he's become a liability. So to have Partey back, bring him in, at the right time. I was fairly critical of Arteta saying, why didn't he bring him on? Why didn't he play him, a few games ago when they had Bayern Munich or Aston Villa? But seeing him play now kind of makes sense now. And the thing about him as well is he's so good at winning the ball back and just taking pressure off the team, which is what you need if you want to win the league. Against Chelsea, every single time one of the midfielders or one of the back four passed to Gallagher, he was just there, sweep up, make a tackle, win the ball, and just lay it off to Declan Rice, who can just make a crazy run or ping it over the top to Saka. He just relieves pressure, and and it also allows Declan Rice to get further forward, and allows him the freedom to carry the ball, which is probably his strength, to be honest. And you can see he prefers it a lot more as well, because with Jorginho there's always that fear of the counter-attack because of Jorginho's lack of strength and ridiculous lack of speed as well. But when you've got Partey there, Rice knows he can push forward, Odegaard knows he can push forward, and they don't have to worry about losing the ball because Partey's still fit, quick enough to deal with it. He might need to improve his concentration a bit because he did get caught out one or two times. I don't know how his fitness is. Considering he hasn't played that much, he still needs to. There's still a little bit of way to go. This is not Partey at his peak, but aside from that, he's been really good. And it's about time we put respect on Kai Havertz's name. Everyone was hating on him at the start of the season before he'd even played the game. That's the bit I found crazy. I didn't rate Kai Havertz too highly. I didn't think he would be anywhere near as good. I don't think he'd be as good as he was. I thought he'd be decent because Arsenal are a good team, but I didn't think he would be like a flop. People were already saying, why did they sign him? Even Arsenal fans themselves, they didn't want him. They're saying, why did we sign this guy? He's not good. And that's the thing I found crazy, because if you actually had seen Kai Havertz at Bayer Leverkusen, even at Chelsea, you could see he's technically very talented. He's a very good player. And when you have players that do actually it's not like Werner where it's like the guy has no ability whatsoever, so it's understandable to not rate him because all he does is run. With Kai Havertz, you can see the guy has actually got some kind of ability, and you can see, you know, there are attributes there where in the right team he could do something. So I was always of the opinion, like, give him some time to adapt at least. And people also forget as well, you know, people will say he's a flop at Chelsea, but part of the reason why he was a flop at Chelsea is because they didn't build the team around him at all. You know, if you look at his best attributes, people will talk about, his heading and aerially. That is true, definitely, but in my opinion, one of his best attributes is his movement. His runs in behind. I've seen him score so many goals this season, just make runs in behind and across the defender and just slotting it away, bottom corner, top corner, wherever. And he loves them runs in behind, but he didn't get that at Chelsea because Chelsea were very defensive, they were very slow in the way they played, and they didn't really let him do too much movement because he was playing solely as a striker. He was playing with a fucking bum in Timo Werner. You can't really do a lot when you've got a shit player like that. Now that he's in a good team, you're starting to see he's actually a good player. And he's in a team that actually, you know, highlights his strengths and takes away from his weaknesses. You know, if you're in a team that actually gives him good service, he's allowed to make late runs in the box. He doesn't have to just stay in the box like Chelsea, where because they had James Chilwell, he was always told, just stay in the box and try to score at this, and that's not his game. And you've got quality high IQ players like Odegaard and Saka, who's just going to give him, you know, quality assists. They're just going to feed him with chances, and you can see when a player's technically good and they're getting chances, they're going to score. That's the thing that I couldn't understand, is why people were hating on him. And as well, I think, like, I've noticed a bit of a pattern with Havertz is whenever he plays with Trossard, he does really, really well. You can see that he likes playing with Trossard a lot more than Martinelli, because Trossard knows, okay, if Havertz is dropping deep, I can go in the striker position and occupy the players, and that will allow him space to make a late run in the box, and they both interchange really, really well. When it's Martinelli, it's a bit harder because Martinelli always just stays out wide and doesn't really have the same IQ as Trossard, the same experience as Trossard. And the thing as well we have to give Arteta credit for is he allows him to play in between the midfield and the front three, almost like Thomas Muller. So the point is, Havertz is a top player. He's a baller, guys. No one can say he's a flop anymore. Everyone was saying, Havertz is going to be the flop this season. He's proven that he's not. These big games he's stepping up. You have to just applaud him for that. The only slight worry for Arsenal is Tomiyasu, because I love Tomiyasu, but he struggled a little bit against Kulusevski. He got kind of beaten for pace one or two times, but it's understandable because he's only recently come back from injury. He's still very raw. Well, not raw, but like he's still kind of building back his match fitness. He's been kind of chucked in the deep end as well. I think his first game back was against like Bayern Munich, and he had a bit of a baptism of fire against Leroy Sané. So it's understandable that he's not going to be, you know, the quickest or the sharpest right yet. But next few games you're going to see he's, you know, how good he is defensively, and he will build back his fitness and he'll be right back to where he is, because he's a top player, and he's way better than that flipping fraud Zinchenko. Don't even get me started on him. He, by the way, if you don't win this league, I'm going to speak about the title race later on, but he should be worried if you don't win the league, because he's cost you multiple times this season. But the point is, Tomiyasu is way better than Zinchenko, so I wouldn't be too worried about him. and you know he's not going to get done defensively like Zinchenko. He's not going to play any dumb offsides. He's not going to give away the ball in crazy areas. He's not going to get caught high up the pitch. He's going to track back. He's going to win his duels. And yeah, so I wouldn't be too worried. That's the one worry that you have for Arsenal, and that's not even a worry. That just shows you the levels between these teams. I spoke about Spurs worries, saying they need this player, they need that player, they need this player, and I speak about Arsenal. It's like they need a left back, but Tomiyasu's doing well, and Timber, we're forgetting about Timber. When Timber comes back, they'll be fine. But now, as I said, we're looking ahead to the title race. Arsenal are top of the table by 2 points to Man City, but unfortunately City have a game in hand. And all you guys can really do, if we're being honest, is just keep playing how you did. This was the perfect performance. The 2 goals at the end, don't let that happen again. But in terms of the first half, if you play like that against these 3 teams, that's all you can really do. You can hold your head up high. All you can really do, because of City, how good City are, is win your last 3 games, and then you can kind of hold your head up high and say, okay, we tried to win the league. No, we didn't bottle it. We went right to the end. We lost barely just because City are City. And then, if you both win all your games and City win the league, there's nothing you can do about it. It's not a bottle like last season, because you actually forced them to have to be insane. You didn't give up. But if you don't win the league now, you're in trouble. I'm not gonna lie, because in this season you've had everyone fit. It's not like last season where you had no Saliba. You maybe had 1 or 2 like signings you needed to make. You've done that now. You brought in Declan Rice. You brought in Havertz. You've had all your players fit. You brought in David Raya as well. Everyone's been fit and available throughout the season, apart from Timber and Partey. But City, they've had De Bruyne injured. People aren't speaking about. He was injured until January, guys. The guy missed half the season, like literally like 18, 19 games. No De Bruyne. Grealish was injured for a long time, and Rodri got a red card in that time as well. Man City played Arsenal and lost. So the point is, City have had City have been nerfed, through this massive De Bruyne injury, the Grealish injury, and the Rodri red card. They've had some crazy nerfs that aren't going to happen next season. Probably, never know. But I'd be shocked if, De Bruyne goes off, is injured again for half of next season. Rodri is not going to get red card. Rodri never gets red card. That was a one-off. You're not going to see these kind of handicaps happening to City as well. So the point is, City have had so many things that have made them a lot weaker this season, where this was a good chance for you guys to win the league, and it's going to be a lot harder next season. So if you don't win the league now, I'm going to lie, it's looking long. I'd feel bad. I feel bad for you guys if you don't win the league. I feel bad for Arteta. Arsenal have been the best team in the league this season. They've been the most consistent. They might not have the best player or players. They don't have the best manager, but they've been the most consistent. They deserve to win the league, if we're being honest. But at the end of the day, you both have to just win your games to see what happens. And we have to just hope the 115 charges hitting. We have to just hope that justice prevails. We see wrong from right. Hopefully them charges land, because I'm getting sick and tired of Man City. If City do a 4-peat, I'm going to be fuming. I can't have that. Where Fergie's legacy is really on the line here. The treble was bad enough, but 4-peat is crazy. At least they're not winning the Champions League, but that kind of sums up that. That's the end of the video. Like, subscribe, comment down below your thoughts, whether you'd like me to continue this series again or not. Any changes as well. I'll read the comments. And we might do another one of these for Chelsea Tottenham. If you want me to do another one of these, comment down below what game you want me to focus on, and I'll do it. I want to try to do this Chelsea Tottenham as well. It depends on how that game goes. If the game is like 1-0 and there's nothing to talk about, I'm not going to do it. But, you know, if there's an interesting game that I can actually speak about, then we'll do it. But, yeah, like, subscribe, comment, follow. Catch you guys next time. Peace.